Boyer.
And I'm James Donlin, the host of the Mime radio show. I'd like to introduce to you our man behind the curtain, who's way behind the curtain today. The man with the levers, the man with the buttons, the man that makes this all work, Michael Diaz.
Bravo,
You're
Mike.
there somewhere, Mike. Bravo. Today, we have some very special guests, two of my favorite people, Duo Finelli, Molly Shannon and Luz Gagiola, are a pair of funny ladies performing slapstick music and dance in a bright, cartoony style, inspired by the traditions of American vaudeville and European circus. Duo Finelli has performed throughout Europe, the US, and Mexico to adoring audiences. Molly combines her love of comedy and samba to create a unique style of delightful, sassy, comedic performance. Luz, a force of nature, mixes music with comedy to create inventive, larger-than-life performances. She is a multi-instrumentalist playing accordion, tuba, and trombone. Let's welcome Duo Finelli.
Bravo. Here they are.
Hello.
Hello, Luz. Hello, Molly. It's so nice to have you with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Molly, where are you right now?
I am in Las Vegas, Nevada.
And Luz?
I am in Olympia, Washington.
Okay. Well, greetings from Chicago. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
And I'm in the Mime basement. I was going to ask you the same question, but Karen got there first.
Yeah,
My bunker.
The bunker.
Yes, I'm in my basement too.
Great. So carry on, Karen.
First question that we always like to ask, and it's about preparation, about going on stage. What do you say to yourself right before you go on? What's that little sort of mental prep? Maybe Luz, why don't you start?
I try to
right before you go on, that moment.
Yeah, I try to just be silent and listen.
Mm.
If I can peek at the audience, I like to do that if
great.
possible.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
What do you learn from the audience if you peek? What's the purpose of peeking at that little moment?
Yes, I'm not even really sure. I just like to look at them, just feel them out. Sometimes like
during the party, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the show or the audience is like already on like a train, and I like think of it like I'm like jumping on the train.
Fantastic.
Like, trying to ambush them. So I like, I'm like scoping them out. I'm like, okay, here it comes, and then jump on it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So what about you, Molly? Do you have anything that you do mentally to prepare?
I do like to be a little bit more quiet before going on, although that's not always possible because sometimes you're actually, having to deal with things that need to happen. So ideally you'd have some like quiet calm, but you don't always get that. One of the things I do like to do from Mr. James Donlin's class is if I get the chance, I try to make a chance to like have a little quiet moment, even if it's been hectic, to do some string pulling.
Oh.
I like to do a little string pulling, just like pull some string right before I go on.
I love your wrist action was perfect. Let me tell you. So,
Molly, that's really beautiful. I like that idea.
Yeah, I like thanks, James. I love I don't think you suggested that specifically for going on, but I just feel like it's like a centering thing kind of.
Yeah, it's like the points in space, the pecking, which sometimes I do that. But I wanted to ask you, Molly, so I know you do samba quite a bit and you're a beautiful, excellent, very moving dancer in that form. Do you have different thoughts right before you go on if you're going to do a samba number? Is there anything different? Probably.
I mean, I feel like going on stage before the samba numbers, it's usually a little bit frantic, pinning, feathers, lots of people. It's like, I don't have, that one is just more, just you go on. It's sometimes you're just getting shoved out on stage because it's like the next song started. You got to get out there. The costume's already happening. But no matter what, before I go on stage anywhere for anything, I'm definitely nervous.
Yeah.
And what about you, Luz? Sorry, Luz. Do you have? I know you play instruments and you accompany clown shows and movement theater shows too. Do you have a different thought before you enter as a musician as opposed to the clown?
It's pretty similar, but the clowning feels a little more higher stakes to me. It's a little
Mm.
scarier because it's there's just more elements involved. If
Mhm.
it's like just a straight music show, like I still like to have like a calm and kind of feel out the people, but it's um it's not as scary, I guess. It's like I don't
Mm.
know. It's like music is like doing clown show just feels like you're like entering like, the den of lions or something. So it's
Which,
like you have your wits about you a little more.
which leads to the next question. Like,
Oh,
you mentioned a den of lions. Who is that audience to you? Like, both of you can answer. Like, so we thought the first thought, then, but how do you perceive that force out there in front that's going to witness what you're going to do? What are they, lions, or is it go further than that? What do you think? Are they just the public, or are they
They
like,
friendly? Are they
yeah,
friendly? Have they changed over the years? Do you see differences in how you're received?
yeah,
In different
Lucy said,
cultures? Are you received differently in different when you're in Mexico or when you're in the United States?
yeah, how do you see them?
it so depends on the audience, I think, or like the setting, maybe.
Mhm.
If you're doing something in a variety show, say the audience is like warmed up, they're used to lots of random stuff happening. That's one thing. Like doing a show in a school where maybe the kids haven't seen clowns, and if it's in the US, they love to pretend to be scared of clowns or think that they're scared of clowns, or so you have to sometimes do softer entrances or
Mhm.
work
Yeah,
your way out in a different way. It's just
Mhm.
it's so different for what the audience is there to have, what the audience has signed up for by being there is,
Mhm.
I think,
Good-
forms your entrance. Like
good-
hospital clowning, you're
Totally
totally different
different.
entrance than people
yeah.
that have like paid money to see a show and like are drinking and ready to party.
But that's a little bit more complicated when you're a duo. So when you're going out as a solo clown, you can adjust. I know that the two of you haven't been able to get together and perform for a while now because of the pandemic and all the different complications about that. But how do you connect as a duo before you start to perform? And how on stage, when you're confronting that audience, how can you make the adjustments when there's two minds going out there? How do you work together? Luce, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. Um, yeah, when we perform together, we have like a few like little rituals that happen not 100% of the time, but like a lot of the time. And depending on the act or the show we're doing, like usually whatever characters are in that show are sort of like in charge of different, I'm gonna say, elemental forces. Like if I'm more of like an MC character,
Mhm.
I think of myself more as like projecting a bunch of energy out there and just like holding it, and then Molly can kind of like sprinkle in, weave around,
Nice.
depending, on which characters we're doing at that time. So
It-
that can be really helpful. Is with the duo, you can get like kind of a delineation of like what each of us is doing. Like, okay,
Right.
Molly's gonna go out there and just mess with everybody, and I'm just gonna like hold the stage.
Right. I mean, you have the classic number one and number two that's gone through the whole ages. And I know that some of the things you put in your website about being inspired by Abbott and Costello and Laurel and Hardy and Burns and Allen, that kind of status between the two can really help you figure out what's going to happen next if you're still feeling out the audience.
Totally. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happens
And
if there's a, oh, go ahead, Luz.
oh, I just love working with Molly because sometimes we switch it up. Sometimes I'm like the number one. Sometimes Molly's the number one. And then in our main show that we do together, it's like we're pretty equal status. But with like here and there we kind of switch it around. But it's really fun to yeah, just like depending on the kind of act. Like if we're like doing like a musical comedy thing, it's usually like I'm the boss and Molly's like doing like silly stuff. But we switch it around, and I love that.
What happens when
I'm usually the boss. Oh, I was gonna say I'm usually the boss when we do shows where I'm some kind of grandma and Luce is my granddaughter who I'm trying to get married. So that's
Ah,
usually that's for our southern shows where I'm Mima and she's Petunia, or for Oktoberfest shows where I'm Oma and she's my Grandliebchen Brumhilda.
I love it. I love it.
Always I'm trying to get her married off.
Yeah, and
I
I
love
just
that.
But
try
that's
to be
definitely where I'm a number one.
just a little bit unmarriageable. That's really fun for me.
What happens? Maybe Molly, you can talk about what happens if when you both first come on, whether it's a den of lions or someone in a hospital bed, or and something goes wrong. Do you guys have a method where you can check in with each other, or is it more by instinct and just familiarity with your own processes that you're able to synchronize the approach to the unexpected thing that might have happened? Do you guys have a method for that, or?
Well, you could get Luce's take on this after I answer the question, but I'm not going to say it's psychic abilities. It's probably years of working together and knowing each other really well. But I do feel like with Luce, we definitely can just look at each other, and I'm not sure what actually happens in terms of communication, but we can make eye contact during the shows and it's like we're talking to each other.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
That's beautiful. I've had that
that.
experience with a partner too in my life, and it's really special when you can get to that place. What
Yeah.
about you, Luce? Do you have a thought about that? Yeah.
I think, yeah, Molly and I have worked together long enough that I'm pretty sure that we both know how to feel when each other is in like a fearful frozen place. Sometimes I look at Molly and she's like, and I'm like, okay, well, I better do something. And
it's my turn to
likewise.
take over because Molly's having a moment, or Lucy's having
Exactly.
a moment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or the opposite, like I'm like, and then Molly just like, I don't know, like starts wiggling her butt and like doing some silly, and I'm like, okay, good, I got a minute to think. So it's fun. I'm really thankful for James for helping me think of performing more like sports. And I really like that idea. Like, okay, well, pass the ball to Molly. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta fix my
you're
accordion for a second or something.
You're a great linebacker in a football game. You just go for the tackle, and that's really good.
Well, go ahead, Molly.
I was gonna give a small little story to illustrate that example. Is when we moved away from San Francisco and we were up on an island next to Seattle. There was some demand that there were some people wanting me to teach some samba classes, and I was like, sure, I'll teach some dance classes. And then when it came to teaching the dance classes and I was trying to work on my dance classes, I realized, I was like, oh, as a dancer, I am pretty much zero paying attention to the counts when I'm on stage because I dance with the group. So it's just like, this move means we're about to start. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, start the choreography. So I'm just like, do my thing. And then I look and I'm like, oh, Sylvana's doing this. We're about to start. Okay. And then I start counting 1, 2. And then when I had to teach the dance class, I was like, oh no, I don't know where the 1 is in any of the music. And I'm supposed to count off dancers or like count off my students to start the choreography. So Luce was very nice and she came to my dance classes for at least the first period. And I would, at some point in the class, I would look at Luce and Luce would go like, she would mouth to me.
Well, it helps. That Luce is a musician too. It helps.
Yeah.
Now, I want to, just before we leave this subject, we talked earlier about what the audience is. So do you have just sort of any kind of esoteric philosophical idea? I mean, is the audience to be challenged, to be educated, to be amused, to be taken on a mysterious journey? Are they your friends? Are they your the unexpected guest in your house, or are you the unexpected guest in their house? I mean, do you have just any general thoughts about how you perceive that dynamic between you as the performers and the audience? Or is that too much to think about right now?
I can start because for me,
Sure.
I think it's pretty simple. Where I've come to where I am right now, I think is a pretty simple. I just feel like it's about, I just want to play that, just about play.
Play with the
I
audience.
just
Their
wanna
audience
play with the
are
people.
like friends and playmates that you want to engage. Is that, or get them to be playful?
Just for us to play, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like we're friends, we're play, I mean, just whatever, play in the world. And that's how
Yeah.
I've been
But
feeling.
and so in terms of the audience, that you want to be playful with the audience. Is that what we're talking about? They are
I want to
hopefully
play with the
receptive.
people.
You play with the people. All right, great. What about you, Luce? Have any thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. I think it's pretty different depending on everything. Who the audience are, what the circumstance of the performance is, like the general mood. Sometimes some shows there's definitely like sort of it can be like kind of a almost like a playful antagonism.
Mm. Well, I remember when I was invited on stage by Luce, and there was some slapstick action, and she belted me. Almost, I'm not going to say she knocked me out, but she was being very playful in a jousting way. So I definitely felt the force of Luce, which means
Well,
light, which
just
means
to
light in
clarify.
Spanish, right? The light was very bright in my eyes at that moment.
Okay, but just to clarify what you're referring to, I didn't just hit you out of nowhere.
True.
It was a spin the wheel situation where like 80% of the wheel was labeled slap in the face.
95%.
95%. And with a very small sliver
You're
labeled
making me
free
cry.
beer. So it was, I think it was pretty reasonable to say you knew what you were signing up for.
Yeah, I felt the force of Luce. Yeah.
But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, sometimes it definitely is gentler. Like, I don't know, like sometimes you can feel maybe the audience, you can kind of feel that kind of like jangly, anxiety, stressed out feeling. And for those shows, it's definitely more like do the Avner, like we're exhaling. We're all just together. It's okay.
Yes, that's nice.
Yeah, well, you guys definitely are successful because I have, having been in the audience and witnessed a lot of your performances, the audience is so comfortable with you and so eager to play with you and enjoy what you're doing. So congratulations.
So I want to ask you about how the two of you got started, how you got connected, what that story is, because the first time I heard about you, had been invited down to Chihuahua for the Strongylus. I never know how to say it.
Strongylus, yeah.
Strongylus Festival by Javier Lopez Rios, who is a wonderful guy. And he asked me to come down and teach, which I was really excited about, but he also wanted me to perform. So I invited my colleague, Pam Tremansky, to come, and the two of us were going to do a duo show. And then a lot of my friends were saying, oh, you're going to Mexico? You're going to Chihuahua? What is that like? And Javier said, well, two women came down and they performed and they did a great job and they didn't have any problems. So I thought, oh, I got to talk to these two strong women that go touring together as a duo. So what's the story? How did Molly and Luce get started? Yeah, which one wants to start that? Luce, Molly?
Sure. Well, we both went to the San Francisco Clown Conservatory, and yeah, we just met in class there and ended up working together a lot. We had oh, it's my kitty cat. Yeah, Molly and I have a lot of compatibility in like humor aesthetics, and so it was really fun working together. And we also have a lot of really fun contrasting like personality traits, and so that works really well for like duo stuff. So it's just a really good match in a lot of ways.
Where like also talk about where you grew up as a kid, because I think the environment as a kid and as a young adolescent really informs performers more than they think. Could be environment, could be the forest, could be the sea, could be the city.
Yeah, so Luz,
those
tell us
attitudes.
what happened before the two of you met. Luz, why don't you start, and then Molly, tell us what came before.
Sure. So I'm from Vashon Island, Washington, which is kind of a rural-ish place. It's an island next to Seattle. And, I didn't really know it at the time, but I guess it was sort of an unusual place for being. There was kind of a lot of like physical theater performers there. Mostly there's a theater company there called Umo, and they did a
Mhm.
lot of workshops in my school. And, I didn't, so I was lucky to be exposed to a lot of uh, physical arts that I sort of took for granted, and then I didn't realize till I got older, like, oh, not everybody has that kind of access. So it's a kind of a small place with like a lot of artists there. So
But that's
great.
I mean, because there are a lot of artists and also physical theater art. That says something about how that environment you grew up in nurtures a certain outlook about performance and artistry.
Yeah.
Because a lot of greats have come from that area, like the Karamazov brothers. Some of them and other people. Seattle's area has always been kind of noted for its adventurous theater scene. Not only in repertory theater but other forms of theater.
Did you
Yeah.
have a lot of music when you were growing up, Luz?
I was in band class growing up. I played the trombone in 6th grade and then started playing the tuba when I was in high school. And yeah, my parents didn't really play a lot of music, but we always had music around. My dad was from Mexico, which definitely influenced like my aesthetic a lot in terms of like art, and now I kind of have more of an understanding of how that sort of influenced like my sense of humor. Like
Yeah.
I think there's definitely like this really kind of like fiercely like a fierce sense of humor in terms of like, well, the house is on fire and we're like having a party.
I mean, there's so much surrealism in Mexico, right? It's such a
Yes.
surreal, mythical kind of mysterious place that undoubtedly that fits with clowning and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then
And go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, so I just did a lot of theater and stuff in high school and middle school, and I just really enjoyed comedy the most. And I was like, this is it. And then I ended up, uh, I, I was also really into writing, like short stories and stuff like that. And then I got interested in the Del Arte school. I decided to apply because I knew that actually the physicality was like my weak spot in terms of performing, and it was like a great decision to go there. It just totally kicked my ass in like all the ways I really needed. It was really difficult in a good way. And then yeah, Jeff Raz came to the Del Arte school and did a workshop in clowning and held auditions to go to the clown conservatory. And I auditioned and was like kind of surprised I got in. I was like, well, I should probably do this.
Uh-huh.
I met Molly.
Yeah. So Molly, tell us what happened before. How did you grow up, and how did you what was your pathway?
I grew up born and raised in San Francisco, in the city itself, not outside of San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I grew up in San Francisco, which I feel like, not that I knew it at the time, but I definitely feel very much like a product of my growing up in San Francisco. Like Pickle Family Circus was in the air. I definitely saw them when I was a kid. Pickle Family Circus was in the air, and then also I did go to. I was in Spanish immersion bilingual school from kindergarten through 8th grade, so it was in the Mission District. I grew up, speaking Spanish as part of school and with the culture of the mission, and which is like very Latino culture, Latin American culture in the mission, and the San Francisco Carnival Parade, which is samba dancing, Brazilian dance, Caribbean dance, Mexican dance, Bolivian dance, Aztec dance, all that type of dancing. And I grew up, I was always in the parade as a kid. So later in life, when I became a clown slash samba dancer, it was like, oh, this makes sense. Pickle Family Circus, San Francisco Carnival. It's all, combined in me. And yeah, I started doing theater, the reason I started doing theater was in elementary school, and they were rehearsing a play on stage of Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins. With this, we had a really fun theater teacher for the elementary school who's kind of like wild and like, yeah, do that, do this. And I was in the cafeteria where they were rehearsing, just messing around with my friends, acting like probably kind of bratty. And there was some scene where one of the characters was feeling guilty about something. I don't remember. And I basically stood in front of the stage and improvised this monologue where I was like, my name is Mr. Guilt. And it was something about being Mr. Guilt and feeling guilty in this kind of monotone, hello, I am Mr. Guilt. And the theater teacher loved it. And she's like, we need to put that in the show. So that was, and then I started doing theater ever since then. So I guess like my first entry into theater was comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, and then it kept going. I went to San Francisco, has a public arts high school called School of the Arts that you audition to get in and then kind of have a major essentially while you're in high school. So I did theater. And in that theater program, it was very well-rounded. And there was actually a lot of what I, would come to know later as physical theater. And I think I did sort of want to be more like a natural actor and do dramatic things, but I always ended up more in the weird physical theater roles and a lot of Japanese theater. We did a lot of Noam Kyogen, and it turned out that's the stuff that I really loved and just worked better for me. So then I ended up going to the Clown Conservatory too, kind of.
Did you have dance from a very young age, or did the samba come later?
The samba came later. In high school, I never did ballet from growing up. I never did like ballet or tap or jazz as a kid. In high school, we did Afro-Haitian dance all 4 years, and some modern, some other stuff. And I learned how to salsa also in high school. And then when I went to Santa Cruz for a couple of years before I took a leave of absence and went to clown school and never went back. But when I was there, my body was feeling really itchy to do something. And I had done the Afro-Haitian dance, so I knew it was like in the realm of some kind of African dance, but not like straight African dance. And then I had also done the salsa stuff in high school. It's like, it's something salsa-y, but not salsa. And then I put it together when I saw samba as an adult. I was like, oh, that's what my body wants to do.
So it sounds like, because I know you guys have done other training too, like Lucy, you went to a comedy writing program at one point, but it sounds like you guys both really believe in training for physical theater. That's so important that you can't just walk out on the street and do something. That this training and this regimen is really important to developing your craft, correct?
Yeah, no, I would be totally hopeless without massive years of effortful training. Maybe some people know, but I'm like definitely needed.
So you met in class, so you were part of the same kind of training and the same kind of background. I know you study with James also, and at the Flying Actor Studio. I think all these different aspects that you are bringing in to form this partnership. When you go to start a new project, who proposes the idea? Does it come from somebody wants you to do a particular show, and so you have to sit down and say, what are we going to do? How do you get to the point where you're starting to rehearse something and you're throwing out ideas?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like when they worked with me, they were already working together professionally. Mm-hmm. So I think the opportunity to train with myself and Leonard Pitt was that they were able to, they already had a process and they could explore deeper into the dynamic between the two of them, which is really a nice thing. You're not like an independent contractor. You guys were already a social group or a artistic group that found some dynamics. Yeah, that process. How do you guys pull that off? Just pull this stuff off together or with others? I know you have some partners, other partners that are really important too. So
Yeah, Luz.
We got about 2 hours to talk about
Yeah,
this.
go ahead. You start, Luz, and then Molly, you can jump in too.
Sure. It's happened all sorts of different ways. Sometimes it's from one of us. One of us will just have like a wacky idea or just like an image or like a dynamic we want to play with. But then there's also been other times where it was definitely like an outside force, um, like what we moved together from San Francisco back up to where I'm from, the Vashon Island, Pacific Northwest, and we were like trying to find gigs. And this is just the first example I thought of. We like emailed the libraries and like, oh, we have like this bilingual thing, this bilingual clown show, and we got this email back that was like, okay, but like, can you do like a Day of the Dead thing? And we were like, sure. So we made a show specifically for that, and it was really fun. But we wouldn't have done that unless it was like, okay, well, we could have some gigs in October if we figured that out. So it can be good to have like outside necessity to like inspire to do something. But well, I like working with Molly because it's like she's not scared of like the weirder ideas, which
Are you known for weird ideas?
yeah. Yeah, and the tricky thing was like it's like the wackier your ideas are, it's like the more developed they need to be before you present them to people without being like just totally dismissed. Because like sometimes a really weird idea, if it's like really developed and then polished, everyone is like, oh, I love it, it's great. But if you like told them that idea, they'd be like, what it no. Shut it down. But
Yeah.
but I like
Yeah,
working
you
with
gotta
Molly because she's
show
very
'em, yeah.
patient to like develop stuff. We'll see how this goes. And then sometimes we together come to the conclusion like, actually no, we don't want to do that. Or it leads you
So-
somewhere else. But
But it's important to have a partner that says yes, more, yes, and a little bit more details. And then, because if
Yeah.
you shut down the idea, then you're sort of stuck. There's nothing there.
Yeah, there's that old expression, what, the proof is in the pudding, let's get the thing cooked before we like put it out there, or
So-
Exactly.
second guess it so much. Yeah.
Molly, what's your take on your
No.
process?
First I was gonna say, Luce, I think that maybe we pitched your idea when we were at Baby Clown School for the touring show. Your idea of T-Rex serum
yeah,
got shut down.
I got shut down pretty quick.
Wow. Have I
We
seen
were
that?
ready to make a T-Rex
No,
serum.
we never developed them. That Jeff Raz was like, why don't you just take it a little simpler for this first time out? I was like, okay.
Fair enough.
Molly, can you explain that idea a little bit more? So
Well, this was Luce's idea, but I was going along with, I was excited about it. It was the T-Rex, it was a serum. You would get turned into a T-Rex.
Pretty
That was
simple,
pretty much the
yeah.
extent of the idea.
Wow.
It hadn't gone developed further, and fair enough, it may have been complicated to pull off as very beginning clowns going out on a school tour.
What
Yeah.
what influences do you have that are important to you? Like, I know the name Duo Finelli comes from a certain place of influence. And also, how would you define what you do? And we're talking about process. Like, how is there a way to talk about what you do? Because I know, in the USA, especially with our idea of packaging and marketing and promotion, it's always been a challenge for the physical artist throughout my lifetime to communicate acceptably to the general populace what one does. So what are your thoughts on that? The influences, and how do you define what you do? It's almost like life and death, maybe. I don't know. How do you define what you do? And who influenced that?
go for it, Molly.
Well, how do I define? A lot of people influence
Yeah.
what I do. So it can, and a lot of people in the world influence what I do. So I don't think it can be traced to one person.
Yeah.
Maybe it was my elementary school theater teacher, Megan, who gave she gave Mr. Guilt a chance to shine.
Where does the name
Um,
Finelli come from?
Yeah.
The name Finelli comes from Judy Finelli, who is an amazing new circus pioneer, juggler, and she was part of the Pickle Family Circus, and she essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, but she's one of the founders of the Circus Center, the San Francisco
Yeah.
Circus Center. And she was our teacher at clown school, one of our teachers at clown school. And we love Judy, and her name is great. We asked if we could steal her name.
So
And
it's
use
like,
it.
Don't do that. So we did it. Yeah. And when we first started, Molly and I, we were part of a bigger ensemble. There were 4 of us.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so we were Circus Finelli first.
Mm.
Yeah, 4 women clowns. And at first we were using the name the Useless Circus because like most of our shtick was basically like, it was like supposed to be a big circus, but like everything was going wrong. And then like our successful older teachers were like, you don't want the name the Useless Circus, you're never gonna get anywhere with that name. And they're like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, it's a fine line, right? What can work in.
so that's a wonderful honor to let people know that Judy Finelli was one of your influences that started you on your way, and it is a really beautiful name. Duo Finelli just sounds great.
Yeah,
like-
we'll have to have
Yeah.
Judy on at one point to interview
Yeah.
her. So she's
Yeah.
so influential in.
Yeah, she's working on a show now too. I'm not sure the
Mhm.
details of it, but
And Judy is she's amazing. She she's quadriplegic. She has MS, but she's a really amazing coach still. Like her powers of observation are like
Mhm.
like none other. Like learning to juggle, Judy would always see these details that would just be like amazing. She would always like call someone over and be like, okay, when you're doing that thing, your left pinky toe, blah blah blah. But even recently, I posted a video of myself juggling 4 balls, which was like a new thing for me. I was very excited, and Judy posted this like super detailed comment. She was like, "I noticed your eyes are looking to the left. If you have your gaze more at the center, it was like just very detailed, insightful, amazing feedback." So she's like, even from afar, Judy still like chimes in with this like really awesome help.
Now you said I was doing that juggling thing, and through my lifetime, people have said, "Oh, you do that mime thing." It's the thing. So getting back to a part of this question, what is it? What is that thing that you guys do? Can you talk about that at all, or is it? Should we leave that alone?
It's
Maybe
not
that's the
taboo.
angst
We
of
can
being a
talk
physical.
about it.
Maybe that's the angst of being a physical theater artist in the United States of America. Like, what are we doing? You know.
I feel great to just embrace the word clown.
Mhm.
I'm a clown. I'm a clown. I can do some other stuff that is maybe not specifically clowning when necessary, but yeah, I'm a clown. And and it has been tricky sometimes. Yeah, sometimes certain events might like feel like clown might not be there. Like, oh, I do physical comedy. There's like ways to sort of massage it. But at this point, I'm just like, no, I'm a clown. Sometimes people are like, well, I'm scared of clowns. Clowns are scary, blah, blah, blah. And for many years, I was like, okay, well, let's talk about that. Actually, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm over it. I'm just like, fear me. Fear me. I don't care. We're clowns. They can be afraid. It's fine.
Wow.
Yeah, I like the way Molly said it earlier, where the kids have decided that they're afraid of clowns. They've like it's
Yeah.
like this group decision that, oh, this is something.
cool.
What's that?
It's people have decided it's like a cool thing to say, sort of, or like kind of hip, or I don't know what, but it's like,
Yeah, get the
Say
mime
it,
gun, right?
and
Like,
they don't really
get the
mean
mime
it.
gun. There's a mime. Get the gun. Like it's like.
But the thing is, I agree with you, Luce. If we're clowning and we call ourselves clowns, if we're doing mime and say this is mime, then that what we do actually makes that word grow and become more beautiful and accepted and loved. So
When you're on the airplane, let's say, or like we haven't been on one recently, probably, but when someone asks you what you do you say, Luce? Do you say I'm a clown? Like I say now, But for years I would say something like, I'm an actor who moves or something. But now I'm going to say I'm a mime. Do you guys just write out and say I'm a clown?
It depends how much you feel like chatting. Yeah, that sometimes I don't say it, but that's not because of I'm ashamed to say it. It's just I don't feel like getting into it. Certain, people on the airplane are.
Okay, so put it this way, Molly. You're at a party, and there's some people that you're interested in them, they're interested in you, and they say, "Well, what do you do, Molly?"
Well, then I would have to say what I really do because
they're gonna find out eventually.
I do want to say though, with Luz, what she said, I'm like, Luz and me are really on the same page with this of just like, we're clowns. We're going to say it. We're not going to sugarcoat it. That's what it is. And it's interesting because I'm one of the groups that I'm working with now, Circus Nonsense. We're working on marketing stuff. And it's very like, let's not say clowning. Let's take the clowning out of there. We don't want to scare people away. And I'm just so like, I'm like, we should just say we're clowns because they see the show and it's not scary. So,
that's so important, to whether you're using the word mime or clown, because those two worlds interject.
Here's some music.
Yeah, but yes. I
hear some music.
Time. It's that time.
It's that time.
It's time to open the gift. Now I know that, Luz, you received something in the mail, correct?
A package.
Yes, and it's not been opened. Tell us where it's from.
Well, I am looking at a package from the Mime radio show, care of Karen Hoyer.
Yes.
Chicago, Illinois.
Yes, it's actually from the Mime Museum. Our curator, Michael Diaz, is trying to get rid of some of our excess, so he's deacquisitioning. Why don't you go ahead and open it?
Okay, it's time to open the package.
Yeah, keep that music. Yeah. Presents.
Ooh,
oh, it's
some
wrapped.
Beautiful wrapping with a little note.
And what's the note say?
Okay, the note is repeating the address. Excellent. Okay, just in case there's any confusion. All right, we got this package. Beautiful. Nice detailing. Okay.
Yeah.
Opening this. It's a box. It says the Mime Museum Souvenir X25789. Should I read the description? Description. Items found in a rehearsal studio after the first meeting. Whoa. Items found in a rehearsal studio after the first, underlined, first meeting of Molly Shannon and Luz Cagiola, later known as Duo Finelli. Note, these items are damaged and are of dubious value. Whoa. Okay. This is very exciting. Okay, we have some post-it notes. Oh, it's like, I was trying to lift it up, but it's attached. Maybe it's like ready for display in the art gallery, the Mime Museum.
Well, you'll have to describe it.
Opening music, ? Raw tape show opening with a sticky note that says, Molly, can you use this? ? Whoa. Notes. Okay, we got some sticky notes. Ask if music opening fastest. There's a weird little drawing. Call Max at 5 Place. There's a drawing of a person with some stuff around their waist. Maybe that's us. I don't know. Okay.
So this was gathered off the studio space after
you don't even remember making these notes from your first rehearsal? The little drawings and notes.
I'm trying to figure out whose handwriting this is. I think it might be Molly's. I don't think it's mine. But it says,
I'm sorry that the tape is so ruined, because we'd really like to hear that music, but it's.
We'll get our forensics team on it. Okay, there's some notes to say could do simple walk for cha-cha opening, use kazoo, march style rhythm,
That
trick
must be
at
for Molly.
end.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Ask Luce if she is wearing glasses for whole show question mark. This is
Beautiful.
awesome.
Molly, you
take
don't
it,
remember making those notes?
Well, I'm like very alternating between confusion feeling.
Wow, James, you collected this
Yeah, it's
degree?
amazing.
Well,
Wow.
I think Mike Diaz might have done that.
Yeah,
At
cleaning
one
He
up.
point.
did have a
He was
glasses
probably in
closet.
disguise, and he knew where you guys were, and he collected that.
Was
So.
this the Flying Actor Studio?
I'm not sure where it is. I think it's another studio. This is way before Flying Actor.
This is the problem with the Mime Museum. You know, the provenance of each exhibit is just very vague. So that's
Yeah.
probably the reason why we're sending it back to you.
Wow.
Hope you can use it. You can take turns hanging it in your in your own Mime Museum.
I'll hold
So let's
every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll have it. Molly can have it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. We'll alternate Sundays.
Okay.
So now I want to get back to the question. So we were talking about what do you call yourself, mime, clown, and I think in today's world, it's so important that we just say who we are, because the generations that will follow us, our mentors were very unapologetic probably about who they were.
Mhm.
And I think that's important for the generations of future mimes and clowns to spread the good energy. And obviously you two are highly at the top of your profession, always learning, still learning, as we all are. But I personally believe that through interviews like this, that the younger people, especially women, because we know that women have been underserved in physical theater very often, that they will look upon you two and they will say, wow, they're clowns. I can do that too. So
you share that inspiration through your performing. Do you also teach clowning and mime and physical theater? And I know, Molly, you mentioned that you teach dance. Do you teach music, Luce? What is your life as a teacher?
Yeah, I haven't been teaching any clowning during the pandemic, but I look forward to starting that back up. Yeah, I was doing like weekly kids classes. I was teaming up with an aerialist, and we were doing just like general circus stuff. And she would teach the aerial portion and also this more like acrobatic sort of things, and then I would teach juggling and miming and clowning, and I love it and am super excited to do more of that. And Molly and I have taught some workshops together, like post shows or with schools, and I definitely look forward to doing more of that. And what's kind of exciting for me is observing in in the kids classes that I've been doing. It's like, okay, we're gonna work on some mime stuff, and they're just like so excited. There's like there's like none of this like weird performed stigma that there is with other generations. They're just like, oh, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's like clowns, and they're just into it. It's not like,
well, that
you don't have
serves
to like do a little dance about how it's weird. They're just like, yeah, let's go.
Right.
That's serves. I mean, that's an illustration of the power of the art form, and it's so important. I always felt that part of the mission or part of the responsibility of a physical theater artist was to teach, in part, because that's part of the mix, that you are handing down these ageless concepts to the younger generations. And that's the only way an art survives is by that chain of events. And especially now, it's important to work with the kids, probably because it's there is a light at the end of the tunnel for the earth, I hope, and the arts definitely guide the way to that. So
I think your work with children is worth highlighting too. I mean, when you go into the school and do a performance, the kids are excited, and then they get to have a workshop. They get to try it themselves. And when I was touring with my company partners in Mime, I love going into the classroom and having them actually get a chance to try it and say, oh, I can do this. And that part of it was like a wonderful discovery for them, especially that sort of third, fourth grade age, which I just love.
Yeah.
Have you been able to perform in schools a lot? Do you do a lot of that? In grade schools, elementary schools, high schools? What's your preference?
Yeah, we've done a lot of school shows. We haven't really done like a lot of like tours specifically of
Mhm.
schools, but I don't know. All the ages are really fun.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
interesting. We just interviewed Avner, and he said, I don't perform for children. And, which is fine, because he's really taking that mission of handing down, he does a lot of workshops for adults. I mean, he's he teaches as much as he performs. And, but I think that's fine if he doesn't want to perform for kids, because the importance of enlightening the adults, is just as important. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because there are things that I really love performing for mainly children audiences and things I really love performing for mainly adult audiences. And I've kind of been like, oh, which one should I focus on? And right now I'm in Vegas working on definitely acts that's going to be for adults, which I've been missing because I have been doing more like family shows the last few years. But if I really think about it, I'm like, I don't know. I think doing both, even though that schedule would be exhausting in terms of night shows, and kids shows tend to be like day shows, or sometimes school shows a lot of times are early in the morning. But it's just such different types of fun. The kids shows, especially when you're in a school, which Luce and me haven't done together that many school shows, but like on Clowns Without Borders, I've done mainly school shows. So there's been like big chunks of school tours kind of through Clowns Without Borders. And it's just so fun. And also in Baltimore, I've done a good amount of school shows. So it's just so fun when it's a group of kids, it's a camp or it's a school, they all know each other and they're just egging each other on. And it's the type of show where, you do some little, Luce is doing something behind me and they're like, she's back there. She's back there. You can just do such stupid stuff. And the kids are just so into it and yelling and telling you what to do. And that is so fun. And I love that. And then the adult stuff is fun because you could do whatever you want in terms of if you want to get raunchy, if you want to, you're more free in terms of you could just do anything. But I do really like both of those.
Yeah. Do you guys have any disaster stories from touring, or any unique touring events? Does one come to mind of something that might have happened that would be fun for us to hear about? Oh, there's a world out there. I can see it. I can feel it.
Molly?
Well, what came to mind from earlier, because there was something in the Mime box about me asking you about glasses.
Oh, yes.
And then that made me remember this show that we were doing in Mexico as part of this international circus festival. And they took us to this little teeny tiny town way up in the mountains of the state of Veracruz. That was a 4 or 5 hour drive on windy dirt roads from the city of Puebla. And we went there, and it was this town's, it was their patron saint or something. They were having a week of festivals, and we did the show as part of that. And it's one of those deals where the whole town was there at the show. And we had an act that we were doing that's a classic European clown entree, the psychic, where it's about a psychic and guessing the amount of things let me finish.
Okay, so I'm blindfolded and I'm supposed to be psychic, and Molly would ask me questions and I would divine the answers. It was okay. Continue, Molly.
Okay, so to test it out, Luce is blindfolded, and you go in the audience and pick out things. You say, there's someone wearing something on their head that keeps their head warm. What is it? And Luce would say, it's a hat. But so we were doing it in Spanish. And Luce does speak Spanish for sure. But maybe there's like certain words that, you know, Luce might not know, and also that I am not gonna be able to think of. So we had a thing where I would say, someone has something on their face. What is it? And Luce would say glasses. And she was blindfolded, and we were in this town, and I was looking around at this town, and nobody in the entire town had glasses. There was not one person of about 500 or so people, no glasses. So then I had to just try to say all these other things in Spanish for Luce to try to understand what I was saying.
Didn't know what was going on.
So you guys had some internal communication challenges, you know, also in the moment, right? Yeah, I can imagine that.
Oh my.
Great.
And that was also the town where right after that show, they did this tradition that I think has been outlawed other places, but they got teenage boys, and then the police of the town strapped these fireworks to the backs of the teenage boys on a spinning. They were like fireworks that spun like this, and they were sort of these bull costumes, and then the teenage boys just ran into the town square and just ran at people with like fireworks shooting off at ground level. So it was us in this circus from Argentina, so clearly we were foreigners, and they thought it was really entertaining to run at the clowns with the fireworks.
How do you guys deal with injuries, or like, you know, age is advancing, you know, we've all had to adjust maybe our physical skills and our approach. Have you guys had any debilitating injuries, or have you figured out a way to adapt to the advancement of age, or maybe like don't do the backflip anymore, or, you know, make sure there's enough light so I don't walk off the stage, you know, whatever it may be? What do you think about that? This just physical world.
Phasing certain things out.
How do you know when to do that?
Well, I know that it's time for me to phase out any kind of back bends in the show.
So it's important to be able to phase out. Don't you think? A lot of people hang on to, you know, to the skills they might have had when they were younger, and it's hard for some people to make the adjustment, you know, but it seems in our field of endeavors that we have to make adjustments. Maybe more mental, maybe, you know, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I never really did like anything especially acrobatic, so I feel like for me it's been so far pretty easy, because it's not like, oh no, I can't do a back handspring. Like I could never do a back handspring, so fine. But yeah, definitely like choosing your priorities for sure. Like you know, like I have an actor. I used to do a lot of busking, balancing on the rollabola, and I love that. But at one point, I kind of made the decision. I was like, I'm not really trying to be like a high level rollabola artist. Like, I love those acts, but I definitely made that decision. Like, I'm not trying to train with like stacking them or doing. I was like, oh, I really actually just want to focus more on the musical side. And so just choosing your priorities, because, you know, some people are like amazing aerialists and they are able to do very physically demanding stuff.
Yeah, your mental powers will always improve over the years. The creativity and the imagination, there's no problem with that, except maybe at the very end when everything drifts into dust. But and yeah, that mental, the imagination and how you craft things is so important, you know, as we get older in physical theater.
That makes me think of when you're talking about you're playing the accordion on top of the rollabola, and it's not really about showing off circus skill. It's about the clown having to deal with that situation of being out of balance but still playing. It's like it's not really look at me, I'm so great. It's like, you know, sympathize with me in my situation, which is what the clown is all about. And that connection that you have with the audience is so important. Lovely.
I'm definitely thinking about that question in terms of what I do, which kind of my characters have been it's like very showgirl, very showgirl, like my clown makeup a lot of times tends to just be kind of like a pretty lady clown, like a pretty lady, not clown makeup. And I've spent a lot of years wearing like 12-year-old girl gymnastic outfits. And I'm definitely like, I'm 37 now, and I'm not necessarily like, okay, time to stop wearing 12-year-old girl gymnastics outfits, but I'm sort of like, what is it gonna look like? All this, just in society, it's like, you're a woman who's aging. It's, it's a thing, not necessarily that you need to change everything, but just it's like, what does this look like? What does this mean? How does this evolve? Not that I'm gonna change my clown and who I am, but how is it gonna evolve? How long do I want to wear 12-year-old girl gymnastics outfits? It might be nearing the end. Same with Samba. It's like dancing in a bikini. I'm like, I feel ready to kind of pass the torch on a lot of that.
Yeah, one of my awakenings was I used to stand on top of a really tall ladder, as tall as 12 feet. And as I got older, I started realizing the audience was worried for James on top of the ladder, not worried about the character on top of the ladder.
Right.
So that told me something about, well, maybe it's time to let this go. Having never fallen, why risk it in the future, in a sense. But it's that. Wait, I heard that. Whoa, it's getting hot in here. Wait.
You guys feeling the heat? It's time for rapid.
Oh, it's time for rapid fire. Oh my gosh. Oh, at least we got those flames out a little bit.
Oh yes, a little bit of a little hot.
We're gonna play a game right now called Rapid Fire.
Okay.
And there's two of you. And the way the game will work is I have a series of words here. This is a word association game. So I'm gonna say a word, and one of you is gonna do it physically, reflect on it physically, the first thing that comes to mind, and one of you will do some verbal kind of reaction. So you can decide who wants to be verbal and who wants to be physical, right? But it's basically just, I throw something out and you respond in the moment, and we'll go through a series, and it'll be fun.
Or if you like, you can take turns doing the verbal and the physical.
Yeah.
Let's do that, Molly. Just whichever one of us does whatever at any moment.
Yeah.
All right.
So, it's called Rapid Fire. So you ready? Does anybody, what you need to confer or anything? You ready to go?
Oh, they look ready. Go for it.
They're ready.
We're ready.
They're adjusting already to the age 37 and so forth. Okay, here we go. Spotlight. Good.
Beep, beep, beep.
Hands.
Manos.
Good. Eyes. Fourth wall.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Sweat.
Que calor. Que calor.
Child.
I wanted the pink one. I wanted the pink one.
Elder. Wow. That is profound. Give us one word of wisdom, elder. Any of you. One word of wisdom. Okay, good. Props. One word of wisdom about props. React. Silence. That's good. All right. Mask. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could see this now, they're frozen in space. They're now, Molly's touching herself.
This is covering your face.
Age.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Failure.
Oh.
Failure.
Yeah.
Critic.
They're definitely on the physical side, James.
Fame. Fame.
No words?
Starlight.
Good. Nice. Nice. Language.
Blah, 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 blah.
Mime. Mime. And now, Velvet Sun.
Ooh.
Angry mythology. And finally, suspended sneeze.
Ooh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Do Finelli, ladies and gentlemen. Do Finelli. I was going to say, you know, this aging thing that I like to look at, you maybe heard me say this before, but for our viewers, it's like an hourglass. And when you're young, all the physicality is in the upper chamber. All the sand is in the upper chamber. And as you start to age, you flip the hourglass over and the physical starts to drain into the bottom chamber, which represents your mental creativity and your imagination. So as the physical drains, the mental grows. So the volume of talent and sand and ideas is always the same. All right. Until, you know, when we get to be 104, you just drop the thing on the floor and it breaks. Right. But yeah.
After this, I have a meeting of the Aging Parents Book Club / support group.
I had another thought about your aging question. Also, you know, because I feel like at first we were sort of thinking about like what physical things do you maybe need to adjust or phase out. But there's also this kind of thing that I've been finding really interesting, which is like the archetypes that that people sort of cast on you evolve. Like I remember when we first started, it was like, look at those spunky young girls going out there with their little pigtails and their 12-year-old gymnastics outfits being cute. You know, and now, you know, like 15, 16 years later, it's like, we're just like, I'm just like more legitimate as a different archetype. Like I could, you know, like we could show up like, yes, I'm here from the inspection office, you know, whereas like when I was 20, they wouldn't really buy that. And so, just like as an example, and it's kind of cool. I'm kind of into that. Like now I feel more legit if I was like going to be like a queen. I feel like a little more sure of myself, a little more over it, you know, and that's cool. And I'm also kind of excited about the prospect of being like a scary old lady someday. Like, I'm like, yes, I do want to be that like crone witch. I'm like, that's gonna be great. And so,
when you're over it, you
cool.
said when you're over it, you actually, I think when you're over it, so to speak, when you're over it, you see more. You start to see more possibilities. There's no impatience or frenetic like questioning, self-questioning, and it allows you to observe the world with more clarity. So there's you know, I think elder artists are amazing. I mean, just in their shamanistic qualities, you know.
Yeah, especially the old. I love the old clowns that like don't really do anything. Like I always remember.
It's like their whole lives are in their energy. Yeah. What'd you say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm just remembering a specific performer. I think his name is Mr. Peepee. And he came, like, we saw him in a variety show in San Francisco. I think Molly was with me.
Australian, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and he was just like this really funny old guy who like came on the stage and he didn't do anything for like a minute and everyone was just like laughing so hard. And then he did some amazing stuff with the ukulele and some ping pong balls. Yeah. But yeah, just like his presence. And I was like, okay, clowning is a cool career because you can do it till you're
a cool
really
career. People need to know that. Yeah.
Hey, so here's a couple of quick questions. How about because we've gone through this pandemic year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's going to be, what have you learned, and what has it taught you in terms of how we had to make all these changes in our performing light? Do you see any good, bad? How did you adjust? Molly?
I would say it taught me that I do want to perform. At the start of the pandemic, I was like, I do not miss performing at all. What am I doing with my life? Am I making the wrong decisions? Because I zero missed it. I had zero urge to get back on stage, anything. And then like finally, after a long time of pandemic, I was kind of just watching some old videos of Circus Finelli doing really stupid things on stage in Mexico, and I was like, I want to do stupid things. I want to do stupid shit on a stage. That's what I want to do. And I do just think that the initial not missing it at all was more of a physical thing because I am a nervous performer. I get nervous no matter what, for no matter who. A preschool show for 6 kids, I'll be like anxious about it until it's over. So I just, for me, and I think for everyone, but for me, especially because I am a little bit anxious around performing, it is a lot physically to do shows because it's this like anxiety before, and then it's this adrenaline that either like is a rush, or if the show goes bad, it's like a bleak descent of adrenaline. It's kind of an up and down physically. So, and I think just like, years and years of just like saying yes to things, doing everything, and then being forced to stop was pretty great. And made me be like, yes, I do want to perform, and I also want to look at how I use my energy and say that I want to focus on these kind of projects and sort of leave this other stuff behind.
Yeah, it's a time of productive reflection, for an artist.
What about you, Luce?
Yeah, I definitely, a lot of what Molly said was resonating with me, especially about like, choosing what you want to be focusing on, like, like like typically non-pandemic times, just doing like a lot of freelancing gigs. And some of that I absolutely love. And then some of it I really don't miss. Like,
Mm.
some of the like more just like straight music gigs that I would do would be like, oh, go to this company party and like help them have fun. And I'm like, I don't, sometimes I don't really miss helping the employees of whatever corporation like have their boss mandated fun hour, like that's okay, they can try to figure that out themselves, it's fine. But I kind of want to focus on more like not necessarily weirder, but like just like art that I want to make just because I love it.
Yeah.
Another thing that sort of happened for me in the pandemic is like recently, I was like, okay, what am I doing? I should make my own like, my own like theater clown show, just like a solo thing to just have so it's ready like in the theater, and my focus has sort of shifted now. Now I'm like this sort of idea that's been around for a long time. I'm like, no, I want to make like the indestructible clown show. I want to have like a series of acts that are like, no matter what happens, some of them still work. I'm like, it's raining, that's fine. I got my 4 acts that can happen in the rain, or like, or like, oh, they lost all our props on the airplane. No big deal. I got my my mime piece that doesn't need any props.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like one of my goals starting this month is to create a pure mime show with no props. Talk about relaxation and not worrying about the rain or the baggage, right? So
yeah.
What about legacy, you guys? Do you guys ever think about that? I know you're like in we'll say the middle stages of your career, maybe, but or the early middle stages. Do you ever think about the legacy you leave, or is it important or not important, or is there another way to look at it? What do you think?
I don't think about it that much.
Yeah, well, good. Does it have any value at all for an artist to think about that, or is that more of a self-serving, kind of pretentious, egotistical thing to think about?
I don't don't think necessarily. I just feel like I'm still swimming in it, trying to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely aware of sort of our place in this like continuum of the art form because especially when I talk to like older women clowns especially and I hear their
Mm.
stories, I'm like, it's actually for me, I've been really lucky and haven't really had to deal with I don't think like much sexism in the like the situations I've been working with. Like I've definitely encountered like, okay, well this dude is an asshole. Like don't work with him. Fine. But it hasn't really I like when I talk to people in older generations, they'll be like, "Well, I went here and they were like, women aren't funny, so I did this other thing." And
Mm.
I think that has really changed. Like one thing I really like about working with Molly and also working with our larger ensemble with Circus Finelli, it was four women, and it was cool because I feel like a lot of times like like the woman would be like the token character, like, oh, we got this group of people and we got one woman, check it off, we did that, check. And with an ensemble of all women, it's cool because it's more like you're individuals. It's not like it's like it's
Mm.
amazing you're a woman. It's like no, you're your own character, your own individual.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just aware that it's not always been like that, and I think it is like that more. And it's fun, like I do a show with Molly, and I know the little girls are seeing us being like gross and playful or like fancy or not fancy or like really girly or not, and I just am happy that I think like the younger generation see like funny women. There's like a whole bunch of different archetypes of different kinds of funny women, and I know it wasn't always like that.
Ah, Luce, that sounds so great. That
Yeah.
really
Fantastic.
makes me feel good too, because you guys are out there and performing and you're getting that reaction and you're being these role models so that even if you're not thinking of your legacy, it's already,
Mm.
I can see that there has been some growth in our reaction to what it's
Right.
like to be a female performing in this very male dominated field of mime and clown. So
What would be your advice for young people, maybe young women, or young people in general? What would someone who sees you or is inspired to learn more or to maybe become a professional clown, professional mime, what would you say to those young women and young men? Like, especially after this pandemic time when, let me tell you, having, been around drama schools all my career, those kids are really traumatized now, like in terms of the
yeah,
future. Like,
it's
what
difficult.
does the future hold? It's like the performing arts world is in such chaos and is kind of ending, and there's less opportunities. We have to find new ways. What would you say, not only in these times, but just in general, to a young aspiring physical theater artist?
Molly, what would you say?
Well, I think what I would say is not really like philosophical advice, but to me, the most practical advice is to do a school program, maybe even especially internationally, so that you meet international people in this
Mm.
wide world of clowning and circus, and
Yeah.
then you make connections there because there's a lot of working opportunities in the wider world. And
Yeah.
then
The bigger your
you
world, the
go to
better. Yeah.
school and you meet people that you want to work
Mhm.
with, like Luce and me and Circus Finelli, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I've met almost everyone I've worked with. So if you practically want to work in this world, I would say put yourself into a program where you'll meet people that you can create work with, and maybe internationally is a good place to do it because there's a lot going on outside of the US in this
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. The world of clown and mime is about the world. It's not about living in the USA particularly or living in Mexico. It's about the whole world. It's the universal, the overused word, universal art forms of connection to humanity itself. That's really good advice, Molly. What do you think, Luce?
Um, yeah, I guess a few different things. Like, I was really thankful for the clown conservatory that we had like business portions, just like basic stuff, like return an email within 24 hours. I was like, blew my mind, And I was like, because there's a lot of really great people with really fun artistic ideas who just are really lacking in the practical side. I mean, I still struggle with that,
Mhm.
but basic stuff like that. But on a totally other way, I think it's really good to keep in mind, like, if the opportunity isn't there for you, just do your own thing. Like, that was a really fun thing for us to create our own troupe, because, like, back when I was thinking more in terms of like just straightforward like theater acting, it was like, oh, well, this play has like two parts for women and like neither of them are going to go to me. It was like try to fit yourself into these pegs. But like clowning was so cool because you just create your own thing from scratch. Like you don't have to fit anything. You
Yeah,
just
like
make your
your
own thing.
experience at Delarte and then with Flying Actor, it's like the other end of the spectrum in a way. It's like, let's build our own work, like,
Yeah.
don't wait for anybody. I like your phrase, don't wait to be put your peg to be put in a certain hole. Like make the holes yourself and put, that'll fit
Yeah.
your peg, so.
Yeah. And everything is changing really fast. Like a lot of the arts, organizations and stuff are, going under or struggling, but it's like so much of that has just been totally unsustainable anyway, just like everything else in our capitalist
Yeah, no,
society.
there's a lot of truth there, there's a
Right.
lot of truth there.
So that
So some of it
artists,
like should die, we got to make a
yeah,
new
Yeah.
thing anyway. Go
but
ahead.
Yeah.
the idea of artists or performer creators is like always going to be there. And I am so glad that the two of you were able to join us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Luce and Molly, the amazing duo Finelli, for being a part of
Yeah.
the Mime Radio Show Season 2.
I've got one more question. This is for Molly first. Like, Molly, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a clown who plays
Fantastic.
fiercely with the world and with the audience and present.
Wow,
Yeah.
we're going to record that and that's a great thing you just said and the way you said it. What about you, Luce? What do you want to be when you
The
grow up?
same. I'd like to be a clown.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
guys. We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to the Mime Radio Show. Join us in 2 weeks for an interview with Greg Goldston. Please like and subscribe, and check out our website, mimeradioshow.com.